would like to call the village board meeting for Tuesday, March 24th, 2026 to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Service? Here. Trustee Paul?
Here.
Trustee Atkinson?
Here.
Trustee Krieger?
Here.
Trustee Telford?
Here.
President Karneski?
Here.
And Trustee Zerbal is excused.
Please stand for the pledge. And please remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, number 5, comments from the public during the public comment period and pursuant to Wisconsin statutes. Section 19.84, parent 2. A, individuals must state their name and address. Comments are limited to items not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named. The board's role is to listen and receive information from the public, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Is there anybody who would like to make any comments on items not on the agenda? Come up to the front, state your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Zeke Probelski. I live at 2455 Bay Area Place. I'm also the Brown County Supervisor for District 21, which is the greater part of Ashwaubenon, wards 1 through 8. My counterpart, Rick Van Lannen, who represents the District 22 for Ashwaubenon, wards 9 through 12, is not here tonight. He is attending a West Pierce School District meeting. Him and I would both like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to all the highway personnel in the county and the village that did just a great job keeping our highways and roads open, salted, lined, and cleaned. When I'm out on the campaign trail, I had no complaints from anyone about the roads and so forth. Also, I serve on the Planning, Development, and Transportation Committee. We also oversee the Port of Green Bay. Just like to go over a couple of projects that we're funding. One is a bulk registration project for the Sea Rice Coal Company, which is approximately 1,300 feet of wall that'll help them facilitate delivery of their bulk materials. The Graymont North Dock project was 920 feet, replacing sheet pilings. The dock wall property rehabilitation at KK Integrated Logistics, which is another 200 feet of wall property to include blacktop and concrete and keep our stevedores as safe as possible while they're unloading and loading ships. We also are funding a conveyance system for GLC materials so they can adequately unload their ships as they come in. And we continue our Green Bay Harbor navigational channel deepening projects, which we channel out or we dredge out our channel from Grassy Island to the East River Turning Basin, which is approximately 4 miles. This is an upgrade that we do continually. This allows the Corps of Engineers, the Army Corps of Engineers, to come in and conduct a feasibility study consisting of a cost-benefit analysis and so whether or not they're going to federally fund the federal channel and see if it's warranted to ensure that our port would be serviced by ocean-going vessels, which require a deeper depth, a deeper draft. So these are some of the projects that we fund as a county. Just like to make everybody aware. Thank you very much, Madam President, for the time.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to make any comments on items not on tonight's agenda? One more time, anybody like to make any comments on items not on tonight's agenda? Okay, we'll move on. Number 6, written communications and announcements. 6A, the oath of office for our new public safety officers. Chief.
Good evening. Thank you to the Village Board with respect to your time, allowing us to take a few moments of the meeting tonight to recognize the swearing in the oath of office for our newest officers. So I'd like to bring up Officer Tim Vandenheuvel and Officer Andrew Sislo. Public Safety Officers Tim Vandenheuvel and Andrew Sislo were hired on June 30th, 2025. Tim and Andrew attended the Law Enforcement Academy at NWTC, graduated on November 7th of last year. And they recently completed the rigorous field training program, and he still stayed with us, so that's good. Prior to becoming a public safety officer, Tim was employed with the Village of Ashwaubenon for 6 years. He initially worked with the Parks Department and before transferring to Department of Public Works. And apologize for stealing your employee. Tim's awful motivated. I suspect he will move on to Finance Department later, Village Board at some point. So Andrew is serving in the United States Air Force Reserves since 2013. You completed 3 tours of duty. You did a humanitarian mission for Hurricane Irma in 2017. You were deployed to Kuwait in 2019 and in Africa in 2023. I typically insert a joke about the United States Coast Guard being the greatest branch of the U.S. military, but I'll wait on that. We'll do that another time, okay? Prior to public safety, Andrew was a full-time firefighter and EMT with Fort McCoy Fire Department and paid on-premise firefighter with De Pere Fire. So we're going to do the oath of office. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin.
to the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservations
without any mental reservations
or purposes of evasion.
or purposes of evasion.
And I will well
And I will well
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of the Office of Public Safety Officer
of the Office of Public Safety Officer
for the Village of Ashwaubenon,
for the Village of Ashwaubenon,
acting to the best of my ability.
acting to the best of my ability.
Shut that off, or hold on to that one. All right, we're going to bring up some family members for the badge pinning. I'd like to bring up Tim's daughter, Bella, and his 3 other children, Crew, Mason, Rowan, and his girlfriend, Carly, are going to come up. There's that badge. And I'll bring up Andrew's wife, Lauren. Go ahead, just be gentle, okay? You ran through this. You can do it.
If there's blood, we have paramedics for you. Several of them back there.
All right, I would like to congratulate Officer Tim Vandenheuvel, Officer Andrew Sislo on their accomplishments. You guys have worked really hard to get to this point. This job is not easy. It's going to take a lot of hard work continuing through the years, but continue to challenge yourself. and seek out advice from some of the veteran officers that are here. And again, just try to challenge yourself. Remember, you have a whole group of support here within the department, and obviously you have family and friends. So, but we'd like to congratulate you. Welcome to the team.
Congratulations. That's always the fun part of the meetings. Okay, we have no other, I have no other written communication or announcement. So we will move on to 7, public hearings. 7A, public hearing on ordinance 03-1-26, rezoning parcel VA-99-2E at 1060 Orlando Drive from P, public use, to B2, general business. Aaron.
All right, thank you. I'll just share my screen to bring up a map of the requested rezoning. Okay, there we go. So the requested rezoning is for the current and soon-to-be former branch of the Brown County branch, the Ashwaubenon branch of the Brown County Library. At the corner of Orlando and True that you see right here. Requested to rezone the property from P, public use, to B2, general business. The P, public use, is a property classification or zoning code typically used for public uses, so things like schools, libraries, village properties, places of worship, so on and so forth. As identified on the zoning map, what you see here, much of the property to the east and to the south is zoned B2 as well, which again is proposed to be rezoned. Properties to the north, R3 multifamily, P public use, the parking lot, and then R1 to the west and southwest on True Lane. I did include a copy of the table of allowed uses, which identified which uses are permitted within the B2 zoning district. The comprehensive plan, again, does identify certain objectives to help guide decisions, including promote redevelopment efforts that include a mixture of synergistic residential, commercial, recreational, and institutional uses, strive for a compact, efficient land use pattern by promoting infill development of existing vacant and underutilized lots, and ensure compatibility of adjoining land uses for both existing and future development. The Ashwaubenon Planning Commission did recommend approval of the rezone request at their March 3rd, 2026 meeting.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to speak against this item? If you would like to come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Diana Kyber. I live across the street from the library. I'm the very first house across from there. My concern is what would be put across the street from me instead of the library. That is my concern. I want to make sure it's just not a huge building, because it would just take away from the residential area. I know there's commercial buildings across the street, the strip mall. I know that Paulson's Hardware was just up the street on Orlando and Road. But my concern is that it's next to a school, and my concern is the school is there, and my concern is who has been showing interest in developing that into a business across the street from the school and myself. That is my concern. So I don't want something that's going to be pulling in lots of traffic for the kids, especially when they're released from school. It is a mess there. There should be a crossing guard, but I'm concerned that it's not going to be family safety for anyone around that area. So that's my concern. My concern is, has there been any interest in building a condo or a business? That is what I'm looking at. I want to make sure that we have a safe area, not for myself, but for the kids that are around that area, because they always went to the library after school. So that's my concern.
Okay.
It's not much of a concern, but it's my concern.
Then that's a concern.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this subject? Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this subject? It is a public hearing. If there's nobody else to speak, then I need a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to close the floor for the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. 7B, public hearing on a conditional use permit request from Wisconsin Public Service for a major utility natural gas district regulator station at 1020 West Main Avenue, parcel VA-L 367-6. Aaron.
All right, thank you. I'll share my screen again to bring up a map of the proposed area for the conditional use permit. Okay. So as you see, the area outlined in red is a proposed location for the natural gas district regulator station. You see West Main Avenue to the south, Spirit Way here along the western boundary of the property. The property is currently zoned I-1 light industry, as well as all the properties around it. This property is currently used, as you can see right here, primarily natural areas with a small yard with some construction equipment on it. In terms of the materials itself, the station will include a small masonry building with some above-ground piping. It should be noted that there are a few recommended conditions of approval for the conditional use permit, including above-ground components or structures of the major utility shall not extend outside the mapped 96-foot by 141-foot area. Driveway access shall be from Spirit Way with driveway permit obtained from Ashwaubenon Public Works Department. External lighting and noise are subject to village ordinances. As noted, the building shall consist of masonry. The gravel pad area shall be kept free of weeds. The driveway apron and drive lane to fence gate shall consist of concrete. The use is limited to a natural gas district regulator station. And number 8, fencing shall consist of black vinyl coated chain link. The Site Plan Review Committee and Plan Commission have both recommended approval with the noted conditions.
Okay, is there anybody that would like to speak against this item? Anybody who would like to speak against this item? One more time, anybody who would like to speak against this item? Hearing none, I need a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close the hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Number 8, action on consent agenda. 8A, consider, discuss, act on the minutes of the February 24th, 2026 Village Board meeting. B, receive and accept the February 2026 Village Fund financial reports. C, receive and accept the February 2026 investment report. D, consider, discuss, act on Class A beer license request for Green Bay Curling Club, Inc. E, consider, discuss, act on the budgeted expenditures for periods between 2/20/26 to 3/16/26. F, receive and accept the March 2026 Public Works Department report. G, receive and accept the 2025 Stormwater Utility Annual Report. And H, receive and accept the 2026 March Parks, Rec, and Forestry Department reports. If anybody would like anything pulled,
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. Motion carried. Number 9, ordinances or resolutions. 9A, consider, discuss, act on ordinance number 03-1-26, rezoning parcel VA-99-2-E at 1060 Orlando Drive from public use to B2 general business. So the concerns that were presented would be addressed at site plan. I don't have anybody right now that I know that has been interested in that property, but, excuse me, the concerns would be addressed at that time at a meeting. So, are there any other comments, questions?
I don't have any problem with rezoning this to B2. It's surrounded by and associated with the other properties in that area. It's a unique building. It'd be nice to see dentist or something of that nature put in there. So I'll move to approve the rezoning of that property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance number 03-1-26, rezoning parcel VA-99-2-E. Any other discussion?
And the only comment that I would make, Mary, is that in the planning meeting, I did ask about the interest of the school district, and they are not interested. So I think it's appropriate to get it rezoned, and then we can handle the concerns at a future date about what actual development would go in there.
Just to confirm that if somebody does purchase the property or has intention of doing residential, we would still look at rezoning it to residential as well.
That would certainly be a request brought forward to the Plan Commission Village Board at that time.
Okay.
And if I may just add just some context to the process. So obviously, right now, the property is zoned P public use for library. It'd be rezoned to B2. The intent is to make it have a certain entitlement for the types of uses that would be available under that B2 zoning district. So a library is actually a permitted use under B2, but we created this public use district a few years ago to accommodate some of these other public type uses. Things like dental, medical offices, certain retail establishments, things of that nature are entitled under that zoning district. So in the event an owner or a prospective buyer of that property were to purchase it, have the B2 entitlements, made no physical improvements really to the exterior of the building, it was largely interior improvements, that would not necessitate a site plan review. But they would be entitled to operate that type of business within that building. So by rezoning it to that B2 business use, it gives that entitlement for whoever that prospective buyer is to use the building in that fashion, so long as it meets the building code. Wouldn't necessarily require site plan review unless there were physical improvements being made to the exterior of the building. So I just wanted to make sure that you were clear that certain uses would gain entitlement because of this rezoning.
Yep, thank you, Joe. Okay. Okay. We already voted on that, right? Yeah. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 03-1-26. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 9B, consider, discuss, act on resolution number R 03-2-26, disaster declaration, Blizzard Elsa. Oh, we have to talk about Elsa again.
We do. Hopefully it's the last time.
Yeah.
So as you guys are aware, last week, approximately a week ago, we did have a blizzard here in Ashwaubenon. The snow amounts did exceed 26 inches. Due to the fact of that, we're working with Brown County Emergency Management to look for relief funds from the state to help offset the costs that we incurred for labor, materials, and equipment costs for performing our operations during that event. In order to be eligible, we had to expend more than $80,000 in order to, be eligible for the disaster declaration. Wow. And right now we're estimating about $154,000, and that's probably the low end. We're still working on honing in when the start and stop times are. We were actually still working on cleanup for that event still yesterday. So it's all just figuring out when the stop and start times are for that declaration to determine that dollar amount. So all this is just a formality. When it comes to the state, we can say, hey, our village board did agree that this is a disaster declaration, so we have everything kind of buttoned up and tight. So
Yeah, everybody did a remarkable job on that, Brian. Tom, your department, Rex, Park and Rec Department, I hear it all the time about what a great job everybody did. So a lot of people out there don't know that we had employees that were actually sleeping on cots so that they could get some rest and then turn around and go back out. So they did a great job. Thank you. Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
You need a recommendation on that?
Motion,
All right, I'll make a motion to approve resolution R 03-2-26 declaring a disaster due to the blizzard.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 03-2-26. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. Motion carried. Number 10, other items. 10A, consider, discuss, act on a conditional use permit request from Wisconsin Public Service for a major utility, natural gas district regulator station at 1020 West Main Avenue, parcel VA-L367-6. Aaron, does anybody have questions? We had the public hearing for the conditional use permit. Does everybody understand it? Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the conditional use permit for the major utility natural gas district regulator station with the conditions listed.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit with the conditions listed. Any other comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. Motion carried. Okay, 10B, consider, discuss, act on a request to amend Chapter 17, Planning and Zoning of the Ashwaubenon Municipal Code to allow for billboards, off-premise signage along Lombardi Avenue. And Joel, I'm gonna just jump in before you say anything. I don't know if many people remember when we went through this with restricting the billboards to Highway 41 and 172. It was a big controversial thing, and the board basically was unanimous in the fact that we don't want billboards all over the village. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. Okay, now I'll let you explain it. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Madam President. So as indicated in the staff report, President Kardasky asked this item to be placed on the agenda to allow for the village board to provide direction to us and staff in our conversations with Lamar Advertising. This is not a request of the village. This is a request of Lamar and a potential customer to locate a billboard along Lombardi Avenue in particular at the property that has the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant. As indicated in the staff report, our present code does not permit or allow off-premise signage or billboards outside of the area along Interstate 41 and State Highway, Trunk Highway 172. In addition to that, there are many more restrictions that limit the types of billboards, the number of billboards, so on and so forth. What I will add to it is that we're bringing this forward to the board because we want to just have a basic general conversation. This would require a legislative action by the board. If this is not something that is desirable at all by the board, you can let us know tonight. We would inform Lamar that this is not an area or an avenue that we would like to entertain, and it basically brings to totality the decision at that point. In the event the board wishes to allow for billboards to be located in particular at either that parcel or along a different section of highway within the village outside of Interstate 41 or State Highway 172, we would have to draft an ordinance then to amend our code to allow for that. So if you want to go forward with the request, we can certainly do that as well, but then you would have to give us direction as to what we would need to use to prepare an ordinance to present to you at a future meeting. So at the end of the day, we're just looking for direction from the board. One, do you want to allow billboards outside of the area that is presently designated? If so, what direction would you give staff to allow for that? so that we can prepare that ordinance. Again, if this is not an avenue the board wishes to take, a simple motion to not honor the request and to move forward with the code as is sufficient for tonight's purposes.
I'll move to deny the request from Lamar Advertising to amend the zoning code to permit billboards in areas not currently allowed under the village zoning code.
I'll second that.
And I'll second it.
I'll third it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second and a third to deny the request from Lamar Advertising to amend the zoning code to permit billboards in areas not currently allowed under village zoning code. Everybody understand? Comments, concerns?
My comment is, personally, I feel that we definitely don't want any billboards in Ashwaubenon. It wrecks our small town feel and look of our village. That's one thing that I really pride myself on, is how the village appears when you pull in, and seeing billboards as you pull up into our residential areas. I understand we have a stadium right there, but it's not something that I personally would want to entertain at all.
Okay, any other comments?
You know, nobody remembers back when I-41 was developed, all the new infrastructure built. They wanted to put roundabouts from 41 into Lambeau Field. That was a no-no. We certainly do not want to see any large billboards of that nature along our corridors. That is going to take away the nice appearance that we do have coming off of 41 entering our village. So I agree with all of you.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
It's an iconic view coming. It's an iconic view coming in from 41 to Lambeau Field, and to put billboards there, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't make Lambeau Field, our community, look good to have that type of advertising there. That, to be honest with you, will be on almost every broadcast of an NFL game. So definitely against it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second and a third to deny this request. Is there any other comments?
That's another third.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. 10C, consider, discuss, act on appeal of denied operator's license, David White. Joel?
All right, thank you, Madam President. David White is appealing their operator license denial administratively from staff. Public Safety recommended denial of their application at the time of application for omitting a prior or an arrest or a charge on his application. What ended up happening is when David White had put in his application, he did not have a pending charge on his record. However, from the time of submitting his application to when Public Safety conducted the background check, he was cited for a municipal citation for a drug-related charge. And therefore, because of that potential charge and the substantial relationship of that charge to the application, he was denied administratively. However, based on the nature of that charge, it is a municipal citation, not a criminal charge, meaning not a misdemeanor or a felony. And as a result of that, and in compliance with Wisconsin State Statutes, Chapter 111, that relates to fair employment, we are not recommending the denial of the license further because it is just a simple municipal citation. And so that was presented to the Public Works and Protection Committee earlier in the month. The committee did recommend approval of the license or the granting of the appeal. And so that recommended motion is set before you in the staff report this evening as well.
Okay.
I'll move to grant the appeal of David White based on the limitations found in the statutes noted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to grant the appeal for the license for David White. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, 10D, receive and accept the results of the 2026 Community Survey. Joel?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm certainly not going to go through in detail in the staff report is the full survey response, but I do want to just highlight a few Key things about the survey, and just note that we will review some of this information in more detail at the strategic planning workshop that the board is planning to hold on Monday, April 13th. But real quickly, we had 730 responses of the community survey. That went out at the beginning of February, so it was opened and live beginning February 1st, closed on March 6th. That is a significant number, much well over the 134, 135 responses we received 5 years ago when we did a similar survey at the initiation of the current strategic plan. All the results came back very consistent with the prior survey that was done 5 years ago, despite the fact that we had a significant larger pool of respondents, which is a good indication that both surveys were relatively valid to one another. From a quality of life standpoint, about 87% of the respondents rated the general quality of life in Ashwaubenon as either very good or exceptional, which is great. The overall direction they felt that the village was heading, 55% felt the village is staying the same, while 36% of respondents saw improvement, and only 8% believed that the village was declining. From a performance standpoint, we asked a number of questions related to the delivery of services, the overall performance, how we keep citizens informed, and managing taxpayer money and focusing on citizen priorities, all of which scored extremely high. And interestingly, many of these were consistent with the survey responses that were completed 5 years ago. A couple quick notes though. One of the things that we did see improvement on was the category related to keeping citizens informed. Not that we scored poorly 5 years ago, but it was an area of emphasis in the strategic plan where we wanted to improve our capabilities and expand our communication strategies from not only our website, but through social media, monthly newsletter, postcards, mailings, community meetings, things of that nature. So the keeping citizens informed score did increase, and that shows based on the investment the village has made over the last 5 years in hiring a communication specialist and putting in the resources necessary to help improve that element. We did ask some questions about the business environment. 90% of people consider attracting and keeping businesses important or very important. I think that makes sense. The one area that I found interesting, if you were to ask this question, I think in many communities, retail and personal services tend to score really high. But we have a pretty robust retail environment here in Ashwaubenon, so I think people are comfortable with where we are. Where we saw a significant number of interest were both in industry or job creators, which I thought was interesting. We see entertainment and recreation, and again, the continuation of retail and restaurant cafe environments being important. On the retail and the restaurant side of things, there was a great deal of open responses regarding encouraging more small businesses and less national retail chains. So an effort to kind of bring in more homegrown owner type establishments versus these large chain establishments was desired. From a services standpoint, to be noted, emergency services, including fire, police, and EMS, scored very important. And maybe to no surprise of staff, recycling and garbage collection was also extremely important, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail as we get into the conversation about large item pickup. And notably, even though we missed the blizzard last week during the survey, it was during the winter season, so snow plowing and ice control was an important service that the village provided. Couple things that were less important, although it did score high, were things like public transportation or public transit, as well as designated or delineated bike lanes. So those scored a little bit lower on that end of the spectrum. From a service performance standpoint, interestingly, and we kind of humored ourselves a little bit internally on this, recycling and garbage collection ranked the highest rated service. So we do a great job on recycling and garbage collection. However, when we get into the open feedback portion of it, there was a clear indicator that large bulky item pickup was a very important service, one of which many people were concerned about some of the changes we made to that. Police, snow plowing, they also received highest ratings, while zoning enforcement and public transit had some lower scores. Again, not low scores, but just lower than some of the others. Again, most of the responses were largely positive. Most responses had no direct contact with village departments, but those that did rated their contacts very favorably, regardless of the department in which they were referring to. Mary and I kind of kidded with each other. Oftentimes, if people have contact with either the village manager or the village president, it's largely because it's worked its way to us, and it oftentimes is a negative interaction, but by and large, many of the responses there were still very positive with the interaction that they've had with administration. Open-ended feedback covered certain themes like property and code enforcement, bulky large item pickup, certain infrastructure. There were a few comments regarding taxation. More on the taxation side, it was more related to the school district and school funding than it was really about village services. So I think we found that kind of interesting as well. And then there were some, a smattering of specific comments about development in the village, whether that's some of the large-scale housing developments that we have going on in our sports and entertainment district, or related to some of the platted subdivisions, in particular the Winding Creek subdivision that's been previously approved by the village. As I mentioned, we will review this in more detail at the workshop on April 13th and kind of pull out some of those themes so that we can work towards establishing our strategic goals, objectives, and action steps. I think this tool or this avenue for residents to provide feedback was very helpful, very insightful, and it definitely provided some constructive feedback that we can work towards. So much so, and because of the important nature of the timing of this, we have not next agenda item, but the item after that. Again, a confirmation on the interest of the village board as it relates to our policies, procedures, and scheduling related to large item pickup because of the amount of feedback we did receive in the survey regarding that service. So with that, I'll answer any questions. Again, we don't need to, unless the board wishes to, get into a robust conversation because we will again do that on April 13th.
Okay, does anybody have any comment? I mean, when I read through the survey, I read through the comments, generally they are extremely favorable. You know, there were a few items in there that, like you said, Joel, the issues got to either the village manager or the village president. We could pick them out, exactly what they were. But generally they were pretty favorable. We'll work on the other items and move forward, but we'll go through it on the 13th unless anybody wants to discuss anything now. Okay, then we will receive and accept. Do you want a motion to receive and accept? No. Okay. Then 10E, consider, discuss, act on the reallocation of funds from Public Works garage door replacement to Village Hall administration entry door lock upgrade. Brian Rickert.
All right, so this is just more of an administrative item. We did have two projects within our capital improvement plan. One of them was to replace 2 exterior doors on our Public Works garage, and the other one was to upgrade our entry door lock system here at Village Hall. With that, we had one project that came in a little under budget and one that came in a little over budget. So just looking for a reallocation of funds between the two projects. They do have 2 of the same funding accounts, being building maintenance, so just looking to reallocate the funds from one project to the other.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move to reallocate the funds from the Public Works garage door replacement to Village Hall administration entry door lock upgrade in the amount of $5,500.
Second.
Motion and a second to reallocate the funds from Public Works garage door replacement to Village Hall administration entry door. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, quick question. What's with the upgrade in our office here on the doors?
Yeah, so.
Just quickly.
Yep, real quick. Currently, the doors are completely manually operated on the office side, not the public safety side. So what we're doing is we're looking to upgrade the door locks so they're actually tied into our building automation system. So they would lock and unlock, much like the public safety doors based on our business hours. We would have the ability to manually override the doors, based on different evening meetings, much like this one. It would also be tied into our building security.
Yeah, just real quickly, Gary, right now you have to have a hard key to open the 2 front doors.
Correct.
And use the hard key to keep it unlocked. You would then be able to use a fob instead with this new system. And then schedule the doors to remain unlocked during that time, so you're not finagling with the key. In addition to that, as Brian mentioned, it's tied to our security system. So in a panic situation or a lockdown situation, those doors right now in the day are unable to be locked remotely in that panic setting, so you'd have to physically go to the key and lock the door. In this scenario, you can hit a panic button that we have stationed throughout the village. It would automatically lock the door in the event that there's some type of active threat in the building, so no additional persons can enter the building during that panic setting.
So they're gonna replace the complete entry doors.
Nope, just
Just-
the
just the
locks,
system?
the
Oh,
strikes.
just the
and-
locks,
yep,
okay.
that's it.
All right. All right, very good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to reallocate those funds. All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Opposed. Motion carried. 10F, consider, discuss, act on revisions to large item collection regulations. Ryan Rickert.
All right, so large item collection is gonna get started back up here in April. I know it's one of the services that our residents do desire to have very strongly. With that being said, we had an internal conversation here amongst our staff to figure out what's gonna be the best way to manage these items. If you guys may recall, back last November, we had opted to move forward with continuing to use the app in order to report items to the village if you did need pickup at your home. With that being said, it kind of made us scratch our heads. You know, we already had people that were placing items out well in advance of our pickup window. And then we also have concerns, say they didn't register their items and the items are still left out. How much time do we give them in order to either pull those items back in and register them for next month? Or if there is a complaint about that, say they're sticking out 2-3 weeks after, you know, is there a fee that we would be looking to charge to come out for a special service in order to pick up those items if they did not use the application or to report them? So what it is, it's more of just a cleanup item. You can see in the regulations, the items that are highlighted are the items that got added to the regulations. The regulations were put in place last year, so 1/1 of 2025. Just looking to update them to make sure we're kind of making sure there's no loopholes in our current regulations.
Okay, any questions, comments?
I really.
I just view this as a tightening up of what we've already approved. We knew it was gonna come in steps, Brian, so I think this is going in the right direction.
I agree. I'll be a little nasty right now. You know, we got people that are spoiled here. And to continue to give them the services that we're giving them, we gotta figure out ways to make it feasible and not raise cost. It's a shame to see these big front end loaders running up and down our streets, wearing out the equipment, and we're picking up nothing till we get to a house. It'd be a lot nicer to get the people that do register, get it done promptly, and keep the machinery off the roads where it's not necessary. So I have to agree with where you're going with this, so I'll make a motion to approve the revised large item collection regulations as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the revised large item collection regulations. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10G, consider, discuss, act on the bid award for the Ashwaubenon Street Culvert Replacement. Brian Rickert.
All right, so this is kind of a rinse and repeat of last year. You guys may recall we replaced the culvert under Glory Road. So this is essentially the culvert that's just north of it in the same waterway on Ashwaubenon Street. We did receive 5 bids from 5 pre-qualified bidders. The bids did range in the amount of $435,000 all the way up to $587,000. We are recommending that the contract does get awarded to Advanced Construction, who is actually the same contractor that did Glory Road, so very familiar with doing this type of work. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.
You're happy with their work, Brian?
Yes, we were very satisfied.
Okay.
Looks like it's significantly under budget too.
Yep, definitely. The reason for that is, you know, ultimately we used the budget numbers from last year, kind of took an easy medium because we really didn't know, you know, what the economy is going to do. And honestly, after a contractor does a project, they kind of know the scope a lot better, so they can know where they can kind of trim some fat. Glory Road had far more utilities that they had to work around, fiber optic lines, gas lines, stuff like that. Ashwaubenon Street has less utilities. We don't have to relocate overhead electric lines or anything like that, so it's a little bit more of a simplistic project, so that's why you can see the cost savings.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to award the Ashwaubenon Street Culvert Replacement Project to Advanced Construction Incorporated for the amount of $435,862.60.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the bid from Advanced Construction for $435,862.60. Any other comments, questions, concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 10H, consider, discuss, act on Public Works Operations Supervisor position, updates and authorization to proceed with recruitment and hiring of position. Joel?
Right, I'll run with this one
Oh,
too.
Brian.
Unless Joel
Okay.
wants to jump in. All right, sounds good. So after 28 years of dedicated service, Lee Vanden Elzen, who is our streets operations supervisor, will be retiring from his position. With that, we're currently working in transitioning to how we fill that role. Is a current job description appropriate for the current responsibilities that that person carries? When we did look at the position description, we did notice that there were some items that were missing that this individual does do or did do. So we want to make sure that when we're advertising for this position, someone that's applying from the outside, they have a full understanding of what their responsibilities and job duties are going to be. So essentially what it is we've added some items to it. It looks like there may have been responsibilities added. It isn't as much of that. It's more of just formalizing the tasks that this person's currently doing.
Okay. Any questions?
I read over the descriptions of, or the added descriptions you add in. Is this gonna take somebody that has certifications in different areas, I noticed?
That is one of the preferences, but there is kind of different, so say they don't have the supervisory academy, Public Works Supervisory Academy. We do have in there that they're able to, you know, obtain that within 24 months of hire. So there are a few things that are preferences, but you know, ultimately, we're just gonna have to see what our candidate pool is to see if we do get people that are able to say check all of the boxes.
Okay, all right. We won't know that till that time when the applications come in. All right.
I'll move to approve the operations supervisor position description and the advertising and hiring of the vacated position as requested.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the operations supervisor position description and the advertising and hiring of the vacated position as requested. Any other comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. 10I, consider, discuss, act on a recommendation to amend section 3.06 on-call stipend of the Ashwaubenon Employee Handbook.
All right, so this is a cleanup in our employee handbook. So currently in our employee handbook, the only individuals that are able to get a on-call stipend are utility employees. Our current Public Works Supervisor, who is retiring from his role as stated, he was expected to be on call 24/7, 365. And ultimately, we know moving forward that to find someone that has that level of dedication is gonna be near next to impossible. So what we're looking to do is help to create a better work-life balance and create an on-call rotation amongst multiple different public works personnel So they may be on, say, a 4 to 6 week rotation where they would be on call, take the calls from dispatch, so Brown County Dispatch, say there's a stop sign knocked down, say there's a traffic signal that gets hit, say there's flooding in a general area. Just be there to answer the call, come investigate, see what we need to do in order to make sure we can rectify the problem.
Okay. Any other questions? Or I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to adapt the amended section 3.06 as presented.
Second?
A motion to adopt the amended section 3.06 as presented and seconded. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. J, consider, discuss, act on the re-roofing of Ashwaubomay Lake Facilities bids. Rex.
All right, for the re-roofing, this would be for the Ashwaubomay Lake Chalet, the concession building, and the picnic shelter adjacent. We had 3 bids. Unfortunately, the low bidder submitted it inappropriately or not following state regulations, so we had to push them aside, and staff recommendation is to go with the second low bidder, which would be Overhead Door Solutions.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the motion for the awarding of the overhead solutions for the amount of $33,200 and to reject the bid submitted by Prestige Roofing as a non-responsive.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend the bid award to Overhead Solutions in the amount of $33,200 and to reject the bid submitted by Prestige Roofing as non-responsive. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10K, consider, discuss, act on the Pioneer Park Tennis Court lighting bids.
This would be to fully light all 7 tennis courts and the basketball courts at Pioneer. Again, this is due to the removal of our bank of tennis courts at the Ashwaubenon Sports Complex, which is now the site of where the 4th sheet of ice is being built on. So just to make sure we have a length of time so that middle school, high school, varsity, high school, JV, and the public have a place to play tennis in a large group type setting, it's best that we're going to be lighting those courts. We actually had 5 bidders. On that low bidder, it was Voss Electric with well, let me take a step back on this. So originally, we have 4 lights on Pioneer Courts right now. And we were going to see if we can reuse those because common sense would be, well, hey, let's reuse the lights that we have, just put new lights on top of them and add a couple of more poles. It turns out the lighting for only an additional $1,325, remove all of the poles, all brand new lighting, so we don't have to keep the 35-plus-year-old poles. For a total dollar amount of $162,921. So Park Board kind of discussed that a little bit and felt that all 6 new lighting, 6 new pole lights versus 8 lights, with the 6 new pole lights being all new and in full warranty, would be the best bet. And so the recommendation from staff and Park Board tonight is the 6 new pole lights, $162,921. The additional cost of the 6 new pole lights is still the low bidder if from compared to the other bids that came in. So that would still be our best bet.
Okay. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to recommend the bid award for the Pioneer Park Tennis Court lighting to be awarded to Voss Electric in the amount of $162,921.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the bid of the Pioneer Park Tennis Court lighting to Voss Electric in the amount of $921. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Rex, I have a question.
Yep.
Because it is kind of located in the residential area, and I know Musco Lighting is very, very good to be directed. Was there any concerns to make sure that the lighting's going to get on the court and not flare out into the neighborhoods? Not that we've had that problem before, but anyway.
Jay, the last thing I want is people calling me up saying there's tennis court lights shining in my windows at my house. Don't want that.
I got that.
So I worked with Aaron. We figured out what the standards would be. Talking with the Musco rep, the way it was designed, it certainly meets all village codes in terms of spillover lighting and the directional of the lights.
Okay, and I know Musco lights are very, very good to get them directed so they don't go
Yep.
out. Is there going to be any time frame when those lights will go off in the evenings? I know there used to be
We're gonna
a
let people
timer
play
on
till
there.
3 in the morning. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
So currently right now, the lights are timed where they cannot be turned on past 10 o'clock. We're going to continue with that, see how it goes. If there are issues moving forward, we can move that to an earlier time if there's issues. But right now, we would plan on having those automatically go off at 10 p.m., which is where they are currently set during the playable season.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. Motion carried. 10L, consider, discuss, act on a request to use additional park development funding for a outdoor amenity purchase. Rex.
So we have several areas that we're looking to purchase outdoor furniture for. First being to finish up a project at Waterford Park. We have a very large slab there that was put in as part of the overall playground project back in 2024. It's just sitting there without the furniture. We're waiting for the right stuff to come along. Finally, we found some angled furniture to, I guess, kind of fall in line with what we consider part of our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. Thinking is to create gathering areas in the parks. So that's area number one, some specific bench seating as well as some unique type of tables. At Ashwaubomay Park, there's two specific viewing areas, one immediately north of the lake that overlooks the Fox River, and one on the very north end of the park, what I consider the point, where Ashwaubenon Creek kind of empties out into the Fox River. I call that the point. So those are two areas that I think are going to be very important to the overall look of the park with the new trail that we put in. We're looking at furniture, trash cans, chairs, specific types of seating, ADA accessible picnic table, so on and so forth that are there. The price that I have on there did not include shipping at the time. We guessed the shipping costs. Unfortunately, the shipping is fairly high. So our new dollar amount, we're going to be looking at $53,823. I guess I would ask for ability to spend up to $54,000. $25,000 was already budgeted, so we're looking at another $29,000 out of Park Development Fund. We do have a fair amount of money in our Park Development Fund that could easily cover the cost of this.
Okay, does everybody understand? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make motion to allocate the additional park development funds towards the purchase of amenities for the new gathering and viewing areas in the amount of $28,000 with, for a total of, well, it'll be $29,000 for a total of $54,000 for the 2026 budget year.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to allocate additional park development funds towards the purchase of amenities for new gathering and viewing areas in the amount of $29 additional for the 2026 budget year. Everybody understand?
Rex, is all that bolted down so nobody steals it?
At the cost that we're paying for outdoor furniture, you're darn tootin' we're gonna be bolting it down.
security watching.
Yeah, and I also want to say, I know we've had some of these questions in the past with some of our trash cans, is how come our trash cans are so expensive? Well, number one, the plastic ones just blow away, and they look bad, quite honestly, compared to the other amenities that we have in the park. These types of trash cans are the same type that we have in front of the community center and over in our summer concert areas. They have what's called a side door. So rather than having to lift the inner container straight up, and if it's filled with drink containers and stuff like that, it can be like 50 to 100 pounds easily, especially if it's a larger size can. And a lot of our seasonal workers are not quite honestly able to lift that very easily. And with a side door, you basically just open up the side of the trash can, and the canister gets pulled right out. So there's no upward lifting, and those have really worked well for us. So just a little side note, that's why, at least in the trash cans, those are a little more expensive than the normal trash cans, but that side door is gonna save us a lot of exertion by our staff.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does everybody understand? Any more questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 11,
Thank you, everyone.
items for next agenda. If you have anything you'd like to see on the agenda, please call the office and we'll get it on the next agenda. Number 12, convene into closed session. During the meeting, the village board of the Village of Ashwaubenon may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.85, parent 1, parent E, for deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session regarding parcel VA-228-14-L-102-B and TID 3, and B, Wisconsin statute section 19.85, parent 1, parent E, for deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business regarding the purchase negotiations for a stormwater management facility. I need a motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second?
Motion and a second to go into closed session. Roll call, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was typing.
New Hill.
Trustee Service,
Yes.
Trustee Paul,
Yes.
Trustee Telford.
Here.
Trustee Atkinson,
Yes.
Trustee Zerbal is excused, and Trustee Krieger.
Yes.
And Madam President.
Yes.
Okay.